Well, who would ever imagine that normally the pass protection is what usually is the good part about this shaky offensive line that you can rely on more than the run blocking, because the run blocking has been atrocious through the first 5 games of the season. Now we had a case of reverse fortune where yesterday, in which the Minnesota Vikings defeated the Arizona Cardinals and Josh Rosen 27-17 for that final score. The run blocking was good, and the pass protection actually turned out to be a little shaky. This is Realistic Randy of the Mediokr at Best Sports Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. And actually, so yes, the pass protection of the offensive line was a bit shaky, but I'm actually going to give a little bit of criticism to Kirk Cousins. I thought there were a couple of times where he held on to the ball for too long, and I thought that he was a little bit indecisive at times, despite having an okay game compared to the rest of the games that he's had through the first 5 games minus the Buffalo game. So, and the reason for that, I remember on the first possession, was it on third down, before, I don't know if they punted the ball or if Dan Bailey kicked the field goal, whatever it was. But on third down on the first possession of the offensive side of the ball, Kirk Cousins on third down held the ball for too long on his right side. He locked in on his read, gave the whole play away, and basically the defense was able to break up the pass. It was an incomplete pass. And then on fourth down, what happened was Kirk Cousins, there was a point in time, same thing on the right side. There was a point in time where 2 defensive backs of the Arizona Cardinals, they were confused. They both went to the far right side or the far left side on their viewpoint. But as far as the Minnesota Vikings viewpoint, the far right side, and they left the slot man, whoever that was, I don't remember who that was. Whoever that was, the inside of the far right guy, they left them wide open. They were confused, and I'm thinking, snap the ball. And why don't quarterbacks do that? Why don't quarterbacks take advantage of indecisive defenses? Like when defensive players, they jump into the neutral zone and then they jump back, and the quarterbacks, they don't snap the ball. They just let them get reset before they snap the ball again. Why didn't they do that? They would have had a wide open man. Instead, he threw the ball to the right anyway, incomplete pass. He was a little bit indecisive at times. Other than that, he found Adam Thielen a bunch of times. Adam Thielen now 6 straight games to open up the season with at least 100 receiving yards. I think this dude right now, we're talking about top 5 or top 3. You can make the argument right now, as of right now, that Adam Thielen is the best receiver in the National Football League. No, he's not catching the ball with one hand like Odell Beckham Jr. He's not mossing people by catching the ball over people and ripping it out their faces, but he's doing everything at the highest level. And I talked about their route running and breaking routes and everything like that to get the separation. Something else that I forgot to talk about when it comes to Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs, but certainly Adam Thielen more because he's been, the one getting 100 reception yards in 6 straight games to open up the season. Another NFL record on top of the record he broke last week of 5 straight games to open up the NFL season. Something else that I also forgot is their balance. How many times where you see the ball? First of all, the catch radius of Adam Thielen is like, normally with a wide receiver, it's like, okay, the radius is like, okay, it's here. I can catch here. Adam Thielen's radius is like everywhere. No matter where the ball is going, he is going to catch the ball. And then the balance aspect of it, and this applies to Thielen and Stephon Diggs. How many times do you see the ball when it's going towards the sidelines, whether it's to Diggs or Thielen, and it's like, okay, they caught the ball, but then you see so many times where receivers, they get 1 foot in or they don't get any feet in at all. And how many times where you're sitting there saying to yourself, wow, how did they do that? Where Thielen and Diggs, they always do just enough to get their toe taps in right before going out of bounds. That is what I'm talking about as far as Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs being the best duo in the NFL. But Adam Thielen, he might be the best receiver in the league, man. It's time to give this dude some respect, straight up. So I love what he's doing out there. I love the rapport that he's having with Kirk Cousins. I thought that Stephon Diggs would be the number 1 receiver for Kirk Cousins based on what I saw in the preseason. But hey, I'm glad to be wrong about that. The only thing I would say on top of the indecisiveness and holding on to the ball for too long for Kirk Cousins is the only other criticism I have for him is I never want to see this dude dance again. What the hell was this? Touchdown, baby. What the hell is that? Stop it. But you know what? He's having fun out there. Kudos to him. As far as the run blocking, that was some outstanding stuff, man. Latavius Murray, SK of the Skull Report and Skull Weekly that I do the joint podcast with him, he said, and I think this is what he said in the last podcast. He said, I'm predicting that Latavius Murray will get at least 100 rushing yards, damn it. And I was like, good luck with that. And he brought up the fact that Arizona's run defense is equally as bad as Minnesota's run blocking. So I said, okay, fine. One of those two have to break. One of those two situations have to break. And Latavius Murray, he did a good job to him, had a bunch of good runs. Mike Boone, that's a strong-ass runner, man. North-south runner, nothing to it. Just get the ball, go straight up the middle, and see what happens. He had a good run as well. And one more thing I'll say on the offense. Look, this offensive line is shaky as hell, okay? We already know that, whether in pass protection or in run blocking. By the way, is the run blocking back? No, because the run defense of Arizona's defense is bad. I want to see it a little bit more throughout the season before I say, oh, the run blocking is completely back, okay? All right, fine. The only other thing that I'll say on offense is these trick plays. And I don't mean trick play. If you're doing a jet sweep with Stephon Diggs, fine. That's all good. Or if you're doing a fake jet sweep where Stephon Diggs runs across the middle, then you turn to the opposite side and throw to Adam Thielen like they did yesterday's game against the Arizona Cardinals, fine. I'm all for it. These trick plays where they're doing unnecessary stuff, such as Kirk Cousins doing a play-action bootleg where he does the play action, then rolls out to what? His right side, basically drawing in the defense more, and you're taking TFL from that. Oh, no. Wait, my mistake. He didn't take a TFL. That would have been sacked, but he didn't even take that. He ended up forcing the ball, and that's what led to the interception. Or there was another play. I don't know if it was in the first half or in the second half, whatever it was. This dude, Kirk Cousins, snapped the ball. I think he was in shotgun or pistol, ran to his right side, and I think it was either C.J. Ham or Rock Thomas was running right there with him, and then suddenly reversed course, and Kirk Cousins handed him the ball off, and then C.J. Ham or Rock Thomas, whoever that was, ran the opposite side, and that was a TFL. All these slow developing trick plays that you're trying to do with this shaky offensive line, it's not going to work. You're setting yourself up for disaster. Keep it simple. Trick plays are fine, but keep it simple. And pitch runs need to be eliminated from the league. All you're doing is setting your running back about 2 or 3 yards to have to suddenly get gain before you get to the line of scrimmage again. So these long developing trick plays need to stop. Keep it short and simple. As long as you can get to the line of scrimmage right away, I'm good with it. But overall, I thought the offense was okay. And what was his name? Rashad Hill on left tackle blocking Chandler Jones. What the hell was that? That's coaching right there. He should not be on an island with Chandler Jones. That led to the fumble, the strip sack fumble, going for the other way for a touchdown. So anyway, the offense is okay. I'd say this next game is a tune-up game, and some people took it the wrong way. When I say tune-up game against the Jets, I'm not taking the Jets lightly at all. I'm not taking anybody lightly at all for the rest of the season. I'm talking about the Jets. They're a good team. They're pretty decent. Sam Darnold, he looks okay. They've got a pretty good running game with Bilal Powell and Isaiah Crowell. But what I'm going to say is that's one of the last teams in the schedule where you can kind of gel and figure things out before you vamp things up against the New Orleans Saints moving forward from that, and then a couple of division games against the Chicago Bears and so on and so forth. That's what I mean, tune-up game. This is your last opportunity to figure everything out, because you can't try to figure things out against the Saints. You can't try to figure things out against the Bears, and I know the Bears lost. Thank goodness for that. They're now 3-2 coming off the bye, and that overtime loss against the Miami Dolphins, but that's the last game that you have to try to figure out all this final gelling that you need to do for this team. So let's get to the defense now. Couple of things one more thing. Laquan Treadwell. Bless this dude's heart. I've been ripping this dude for 2.5 years. Laquan Treadwell has had a very solid couple of games, his last 2 or 3 games. The Rams game, he dropped the ball. He dropped the ball one time. But outside of that, in the rest of that Rams game, he was pretty good. Against the Eagles, he was pretty good. And I thought you could make the argument that he had his best game of his career yesterday against the Arizona Cardinals. He was making catch after catch. He was getting more involved than he normally does. I was very happy to see him step up and not let the early, when I called him a bum because he was, all those early disasters that he had early in the season, he didn't let it continue on for the last couple of games. So kudos to him on that. Now moving on to defense. Couple of things. Anthony Barr. We had an Anthony Barr sighting. The last 2 games, he's been really, really good. He stopped the third down. Excellent blitz on third down on Josh Rosen. He ended up jumping up, getting his hands up in the air, having a pass deflection. That was some good stuff. And he also had a strip fumble. He forced the fumble on what's his name, David Johnson, the running back for the Arizona Cardinals. So very good job to Anthony Barr for stepping up. I'm going to talk about him a little bit more in just a second regarding Mike Hughes. Now, outside of that, As far as the defensive line, I said the defensive line needs to get consistent pressure. They need to keep doing it, and they've done a hell of a job. They got consistent pressure, great pass rush, and great run defense on the Arizona Cardinals by everybody. Daniil Hunter had another sack. Did he have 2 sacks? I can't remember. I know he had at least a sack. I think he had 2. Linval Joseph, he got after it a couple of times. He got hobbled late in the second half, like late in the fourth quarter, I believe it was, and then he came back, so that was really good to see. Sheldon Richardson, he had a pretty good game. Stephen Weatherly, he had a pretty good game as well. Like I said, this defensive line can still be great in Everson Griffin's absence. They're doing a marvelous job. Eric Kendricks, he had a good game. George Iloka, he started, but I like what they were doing. Mike Zimmer, he was rotating George Iloka in a couple of plays. He started for Andrew Sandeo. Then you had Anthony Harris. Ron Kearse, he played a couple of snaps in the big nickel package. That was some really good stuff, keeping things confused, and I was really impressed by that. But here's what I'm going to say about Anthony Harris. Anthony Harris has grown as a player with this Vikings team. I remember he was just he could make some big tackles, but in coverage, he was like, eh. There was 2 plays he had in coverage that were outstanding. Number 1 was the interception, obviously. I mean, like, that's the best play you could have in coverage. But other than that, besides that goal line stand, people are going to think about that 4th down play where they stopped David Johnson from breaking the 1-yard line to getting into the end zone. The play before that, Josh Rosen on 3rd down, I believe he did a play action pass. He did a play action to David Johnson, faked it out. Anthony Harris was out covering his man on the flat, and Ben Gideon was left alone in the high corner, like the high post, the outside post corner of the end zone, the right side. Josh Rosen targeted Ben Gideon, threw it. I don't know who the receiver was. I can't remember. But Anthony Harris, he switched off from the flat just in time. His awareness was on point on that play. Switched off the flat player on that side, helped Ben Gideon out to break that pass up on 3rd down, which led to the goal line stand on 4th down. That was some fantastic stuff. I see you, dog, Anthony Harris. You're doing big things. Now, as far as what to do moving forward, because it is feared that Mike Hughes may have a torn ACL by the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings are fearing that Mike Hughes has a torn ACL per Tom Pelissero, Tom Pelissero reported by him. Now, as far as what do you do with that, because that is a significant loss. If you're talking about Xavier Rhodes, Trey Waynes, Mackenzie Alexander, Holton Hill, Mackenzie Alexander, to his credit, he's had a good couple of games. Can you trust on him consistently? Again, look, the offensive line, if anyone wants to bring something up, is the defense completely back? No. Is Mackenzie Alexander, is he all of a sudden the nickel corner for us? I'm not going to say that yet because, again, this Arizona Cardinals offensive line is god-awful. I want to see it more consistently. But to the defense credit, against the Eagles and against the Arizona Cardinals, they've had very good games. Same thing with Mackenzie Alexander. Very good games. I want to see it consistently. Now, I do believe that the defense can get consistently good again. Harrison Smith, he had a great game, by the way. But in the case of Mackenzie Alexander, I'm not so sure. I would like to see him as a rotational player that comes in, not an everyday slot or every game, every down slot nickel corner. As far as the solution with that, Mike Hughes, if he does have a torn ACL, certainly he's going to miss a lot of time. Okay, we already know that. What is the solution with that? I have it right here. It has been reported that the Arizona Cardinals are open to trading Patrick Peterson, star cornerback for the Arizona Cardinals. He played yesterday, did a pretty decent job on Stephon Diggs, if I do say so myself. What would you like to do with that? I think the Minnesota Vikings should look to trade for Patrick Peterson, damn it. And here's why. Look, I'm all about offensive line help. We need as much offensive line help as we need. But the Minnesota Vikings, they don't care. They don't care at all. The offensive line is no big deal to them. All they care about is defensive players, okay? So I'm thinking along the lines of Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer. That's how I'm thinking. I'm thinking like you now. We don't need offensive line help. We need as many defensive players as possible. And don't tell me that I'm lying and I'm full of crap. Look at the draft. Look at the draft history since Mike Zimmer's been here, okay? Your first round draft picks since Mike Zimmer has been here. Mike Hughes, cornerback. Laquan Treadwell, wide receiver. Trey Waynes, cornerback. Anthony Barr, linebacker. And then you traded it for the at the 11th hour for Teddy Bridgewater at the 32nd pick in the draft, okay? Cornerback, linebacker. Those are your first round picks. You want as many defensive players as possible, right? Here's your solution. You're going to have to put your pride to the side for a specific player. and that is Anthony Barr. I've been saying it this whole time. You need to trade him. If they look, don't talk to me about, they're not going to trade him. You are at least considering giving this dude a long-term contract. At least 8 figures for his next contract? You were at least considering that? I'm looking at Patrick Peterson's contract right now. Patrick Peterson right now, at age 28, is making $11 million this year. Next year, 2019, another $11 million when he's 29. The year after that, $12 million when he's 30. So this is the end of his prime right now. You can have it right now. Let's lay out the facts right now. Patrick Peterson is an upgrade over Mackenzie Alexander and even Trey Waynes for that matter. Okay, he's an upgrade over both our cornerbacks. He's actually an upgrade over Xavier Rhodes. He's outplayed Xavier Rhodes this entire year. Xavier Rhodes is not the same guy that he was last year. He's better than every cornerback that we have right now. He's also would have a bigger impact on defense than Anthony Barr would. Also, you have a replacement for Anthony Barr with Eric Wilson. It is a crime that this dude, Eric Wilson, is not playing on the field. He has a lot to offer. You need to give this man some PT out there. So, again, upgrade over all our cornerbacks. He provides instant depth, an immediate instant depth upgrade at our secondary. He's better than Anthony Barr as far as just a pure football player, and you have a replacement for Anthony Barr with Eric Wilson. And as far as, how can you create the cap? How can you do it? Spotrac.com. They have this roster tool where you can basically act as your GM. So I am now going to be the GM of the Minnesota Vikings. Here's what we got. According to Spotrac.com, the estimated cap space for the Minnesota Vikings is just under $3 million. Now, if I trade Anthony Barr, now here's the thing. You can't just trade Anthony Barr for Patrick Peterson. That's not, the Arizona Cardinals, they're not going to take that. You need to add additional stuff. I would add not a couple of first round picks. I would add a first round pick if necessary. Because again, all you do is take defensive players in the first round anyway. So I'm thinking along the lines of Zimmer and Spielman, okay? Or if they'll take a second round pick, maybe a second and a third round pick, and Anthony Barr, I would do it. Or Anthony Barr and a first round pick, and maybe throw in J-Ron Kearse. You want to get young? Fine, here's J-Ron Kearse too. Have at it, okay? If you simply just trade Anthony Barr for Patrick Peterson, you will actually save just over $2 million with that. I'm looking at this right now. No, actually, $1.3 million. So you'll actually add cap room with this trade if you do that. Just Anthony Barr for Patrick Peterson alone, and then whatever draft picks you want to add after that. That would be some good stuff right there. You could replace Anthony Barr with Eric Wilson, and you'll be set. Then, moving forward in 2019, because then again, Patrick Peterson, he's got 2 more years left on his contract after this year. Cut Andrew Sendejo. That would save you $5.5 million. Restructure Kyle Rudolph's cap hit. Next year's cap hit would be $7,600,000. Restructure it to, let's say, $5 million. That would save you $2,600,000. Then you can cut Trey Waynes. That saves you just over $9 million. So that not only does that allow you to keep Patrick Peterson for the rest of his contract, that also allows you to renegotiate Adam Thielen's contract to match him with the $12.5 million for Stephon Diggs. This is all on the GM tool for Spotrac.com. You can do it yourself, but it's certainly possible. You have to put your pride to the side with Anthony Barr. I know you love him, Mike Zimmer. He's been like a son to you. And don't talk to me about family. Don't talk to me about loyalty. Y'all cut Brian Robinson like he was nothing, like he was chopped liver. So don't talk to me about that. You're a cutthroat business just like everybody else, okay? And the fact of the matter is, Patrick Peterson would make this defense better if you trade for him. As long as you trade Anthony Barr, nobody else. Anthony Barr, as far as our star players, Anthony Barr and maybe J-Ron Kearse, and if necessary, a first-round draft pick or a second and a third-round draft pick, I would do it. It will make your secondary great. Xavier Rhodes and Patrick Peterson, are you kidding me right now? That would be some fantastic stuff. That's your solution. Otherwise, you can keep Anthony Barr. Like I say, he's too inconsistent. He showed up the last 2 out of 6 games. Good for him. And you will be relying on Mackenzie Alexander to carry the role or Holton Hill to switch in and out as that slot nickel corner. So, we do this once a week. Mediokr and Best Sports Podcast with Realistic Randy. We do this once a week. YouTube, iTunes. You can find me on Facebook at Realistic Randy or on Twitter at Realistic_Randy. We'll see you next week.